Let's talk a bit about captive portal. We'll discuss about captive portal in brief in this video. Okay. So most hotspots and guest networks are secured by captive portal authentication, right? So this really works for hotspots and guest networks, right? And this captive portal is a layer 3 form of authentication. Which means a client first gets an IP address, and then it needs an IP address to basically go onto the browser and bring up a web page, right? So the client needs an IP address. So IP address is assigned already, okay, to the user. So if you troubleshoot a guest authentication issue and you see a client already having an IP address, don't be alarmed. That's normal. The client is supposed to get an IP address, only then it will be able to go to the browser and bring up a page, right? So that is normal. So client will do, unlike in layer 2 authentication where a client has to get authenticated on layer 2 first and then go and do a DORA for DSCP. But here DORA is done before DSCP address is assigned, and then the layer 3 authentication kicks in. That is the captive portal. Okay, cool. So captive portal is essentially the integration of a firewall with the authentication web page, right? So it's basically combining the firewall capabilities along with the authentication of web page, right? That's pretty much what is going on in captive portal. So although captive portals are often associated with hotspots and guest Wi-Fi networks, the technology is not specifically affiliated with wireless networks. You can also see captive portals for wired networks also. So it's not just for Wi-Fi, not just for Wi-Fi, works for wired users also. I've seen wired guest access also, where you are using the same process but only on the wired side this time, right? So here this is, here's how the process really works. So when a user connects to a guest network, whether wired or wireless, any packets that the user transmits are intercepted and blocked from accessing the gateway, okay, to the network resources until the user is authenticated or authorized by the captive portal. Okay, so let me repeat this again. When a user connects to the guest network, whether wired or wireless, it could be wireless and wired user, any packet that a user sends or transmits is intercepted and blocked from accessing the gateway. Okay, when a user connects and transmits the packets, all packets are intercepted and blocked from accessing a gateway to the network resources. Okay, so the user has to be authenticated first by the captive portal, only then it will be able to go and check for the network resources, whatever is available for them. So most vendors, most WLAN vendors, most vendors offer integrated captive portal solutions. Let's say I have a WLAN controller, right? WLAN controller. I will have an integrated captive portal, or it can also be residing on some other third-party server where you can actually connect the controller and fetch the page from there as well, right? So the captive portal, as I said, could be on a controller and could be on a third-party device as well. Most vendors that support captive portals provide the ability to customize the portal, right? If you're giving a captive portal page, if any company wants to deploy the captive portal, you should also have the flexibility to be able to customize it. You want to put your logo right somewhere here, you want to put your company name somewhere here, you want to put your own policies, link to the policy web page, policy page here. You might want to the acceptance policy or anything that you want to put. So the page has to be completely customized. That is something which any customer would look for if they're deploying your captive portal, right? So that's why if some vendors do not give this flexibility to have the captive portal, you may not even need to rely on their captive portal. You can have a separate solution for captive portal also in your network. So that's also possible, where you have dedicated companies that only offer captive portal solution for your Wi-Fi network, for your Wi-Fi guest network. and you can use that as well, right? So nowadays we see a lot of enhancements. We, as I said, a user typically can enter username and the password, right? Username and the password to enter. Some people only enter one pre-shared key. It could be, just simple one pre-shared key. So let me just write this down here. It could be username and password authentication, right? It could be just a password authentication basically, and sometimes it could be nothing. It could be open auth also. Like you bring up a page, open auth, you just bring up a page and there is no place to enter any password. You just need to click on accept. Why people do that is because they have to make sure you give them the user acceptance policies where they just need to accept it, and then they can actually browse the internet and make sure. So that acceptance policy is actually kind of like a, you're preventing yourself from, if the user kind of accesses something that he should not, then you have a policy already in place, and you can actually hold them responsible for that. So sometimes open auth also works. Some other different ways by which guest users can authenticate is, you probably would have seen this at the airports, is called OTP based authentication, right? So at the back end, what happens is you need to integrate your Wi-Fi system with an SMS gateway. Okay, SMS gateways like Twilio or Gupshup or any other SMS gateway that you know of, you can integrate with all the SMS gateways at the back end of your Wi-Fi server. And when a client connects on the guest network, he opens the SSID, he opens the web page, and the page is moved to the login, the captive portal page. There you need to enter your phone number, and the password the OTP will be sent to you on your phone as an SMS, and that's through the SMS gateway that is connected at the back end. So that is another form of web page authentication method, which is also very convenient, right? Because people walking in the airport, you just cannot keep a note of everybody walking in at the airport, right? So you can do this also and get them access. So now for the corporate networks, another very cool thing that they do is called sponsored guest access or sponsored guest authentication. Okay, this is nowadays very widely used. Okay, now what happens in this is, let's say I work in Juniper Networks right now, and my friend wants to visit and meet me in the office. Okay, and of course I would want my friend to get access to the internet. That's the guest network. Now what he will do is, or he or she will come to the office, and they will bring up the web page. The web page is configured in a way like it will be something like this, where there will be fields like a sponsored name and a sponsored email address. Okay, now what this will do is, the person who will enter the sponsored name, he or she will enter Vidur Batra, that's my name, and then he or she will enter my email address at juniper.net, whatever is the email address at juniper.net, and then it will click on request access. There'll be a button like request access. Okay, the moment he clicks on request access, an email will come to my email address here that your friend wants to connect onto the Wi-Fi. Do you approve? Is he even your friend? Do you even know him? Then I'll be like, okay, yes, I know him. I'll click on give access, and the moment I click on give access, his web page will move to a different page saying, access granted, you can browse the internet now. So now he can bring up google.com, and from there on take it from there. So that's also very good new functionality of guest authentication that has come in. So sponsored guest authentication makes it very easy for the corporate users to basically handle guest networks, right? Now the other thing is, sometimes many vendors also allow you to log into the captive portal using social logins. Could be like your Amazon account, Amazon login, could be your Google login, like Gmail login, could be your Azure login, right? Or anything else also. Like, you get different social logins capability to also be able to make sure that you use these logins and then log into the Wi-Fi network also. You can also nowadays you get the facility also to configure the authentication to last for only, let's say, 8 hours. Let's say I have a guest coming in the morning and I want him to get connected to the Wi-Fi for the entire day and then de-authenticate, right? So I can define a timer also at the bottom somewhere, or wherever the setting is, that let him get the access to these many seconds or these many minutes or these many hours, and after that the client should automatically get disconnected. I can also make sure once the client gets authenticated, he's automatically redirected to a page that I want him to redirect to. Now this is used specifically by many orgs to advertise their own network or advertise their own company, right? So let's say I visit the office of LinkedIn, or I visit the office of Google, or I visit the office of Microsoft. I connect onto the guest network. I enter the username and the password, or I actually have a sponsored guest authentication. I do that. Once I get the access, my web page will automatically or can automatically redirect to Microsoft.com. Now they want me to see their page. That's fine. That's something which it's their choice, and I will have to be redirected to that Microsoft.com, and from there on I can go anywhere I want, right? So all these kind of tweaks and tweaks can be done when deploying captive portal, and the vendors who are deploying, giving out this captive portal SSID should be able to at least do these things minimum. This is captive portal has actually become very advanced nowadays, so these things are bare minimum that they need to do. And this makes the life of users extremely easy. So the thing is that when a corporate user comes and connects, the idea is to make sure you have enough security, and make sure the network is not breached, make sure the users are absolutely not able to go anywhere they should not. Basically the security is uptight, like very very high, right? Because you don't want any breach in the corporate network. Now with the guest users, the idea is the opposite. Idea is to give them convenience, idea is to give them internet access, idea is to give them what they want, just not the network resources, right? Don't give them the corporate network. But apart from that, our goal is to make their life to get onto the internet as easy as possible. That is what we want to do. That is what the whole thing of guest user, that's how it came in the picture. We want to make sure the guests who are coming from outside should not face any inconvenience to go onto the internet, right? It should be a click of a button, and they should be able to go onto the internet just fine, right? So that was pretty much it about captive portal. That's all you need to know for this fundamentals course of captive portal. I've also covered a few things which you need not even know, but that's okay. You can keep this knowledge with you. And most vendors, I would say, they have a different way of getting the captive portal, but the fundamental and the base technology remains pretty much the same. Okay, so yeah, I think this is the last video for this course, and I hope you learned something. I hope you liked the course, and thank you so much for watching till now. And I am going to come up with another course very soon, somewhere around the design fundamentals. But yeah, that will take some time. But I hope But I hope this course was good and helpful for you. And I just want to thank you once again for watching this. And I hope you can share this share this with your friends, and also let them know about these courses. Thank you very much, guys.